Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Bootstrap containers, rows, and columns. The basis of Bootstrap is a 12-column grid system. This gives a lot of flexibility. In Bootstrap 4, media query sizes are extra small, 0, small, 576 pixels, medium, 768 pixels, large, 992 pixels, and extra large, 1200 pixels. All content in Bootstrap has to work in the 12-column system. Simply put, each section of a page goes into a container row with columns contained in the parent container and rows. So your structure is sort of a wrapper. That's the parent, which is the container class. Inside that is a row that holds all the columns together. So the row is a child of the container, but a parent of the columns. So bootstrap.container widths and devices. So here you can see that the container can have two classes. One is got a margin left and right, and the other one goes 100% of the device. The Bootstrap grid system needs a container to hold rows and columns. A container is a simple div element with the class of container. The container is used to provide a proper width for the layout, acting as a wrapper for the content. Take a look at the following CodePen demo on the slide. Here the container element wraps the content and sets left and right margin. It also has a different fixed width in different size devices. The slideshow width of this container class varies on different devices. You can choose a fluid container if you're not fond of the fixed layout. To do this, you use the class.container-fluid. A fluid container has no fixed width. Its width will always be the width of the device. Just note that both fixed and fluid containers have paddings of 15 pixels on the left and right side. And you can actually see that when you're taking a look that the container column 1 over on the left really doesn't touch quite the outside of the container. The Bootstrap row. A row acts like a wrapper around the column. So what you see on the slide is actually the gray, it's the container. It has a little bit of offset in it. Inside of it you have the row, which is the green, and inside of that you have your choices of columns. Notice they're all base and total up to 12. The row nullifies the padding set by the container element by using a negative margin of minus 15 pixels on both the left and right sides. A row spans from the left edge to the right edge of the container element is created by adding the class.row to a block level element inside the container. So it's sort of like using tables, except that you're using the container to hold every single row and column within your content. Bootstrap columns. The column grid system allows for 12 columns across the page, as we talked to. So you could actually have 12 very small things, or you could have one very large. So that's the difference between your span 1 and your span 12. If you do not want to use all 12 columns individually, you can group the columns together to create wider columns. Notice you're a little bit limited about this because they have to total 12. The minute they total more than 12, they will overset. Bootstrap's grid system is responsive, and the columns will rearrange depending on the screen size. On a big screen, it might be better with the content organized in 3 columns, but on a small screen, it would be better if the content items were stacked on top of each other. Bootstrap does this for you. Remember that grid columns should add up to 12 for a row. More than that, and the column will stack no matter what the viewpoint. Grid system rules. Some Bootstrap grid system rules. The rows must be placed with the container class. Use rows to create horizontal columns and groups. Content should be placed within columns. Predefined classes like row and column small 4 are available for quickly managing grid layouts. Columns create gutters via padding. Grid columns are created by specifying the number of 12 available columns you wish to span. column widths are always in percentages because these are responsive. The basic structure of a Bootstrap grid. So this is what the HTML might look like. So you have a div class of container. Inside of that, nested inside of it, is a div class of row. You have more than one row in a container. Inside the row, you see that I have two div classes that would give me the columns. They're nested within the row. And you can see that I can have many of these. I hope that gives you some idea of how to start using a grid system in Bootstrap.